lunchtime in Sweden. I am Sara and I live in this house. I didn't actually tell someone I'm going to be live at this point, but I hope some of you will catch up in a while and maybe be able to see this, well, in a while. I know some of you following my channel are asleep when I am awake. It's always a bit tricky because we are in different parts of the world, but it will simply be like this. I am, as I said, I am in Sweden, and in Sweden at 11 o'clock, lunchtime nearly, and well, I basically do today's garden project when I can. And this may be my best tip for anyone, well, any parent with small kids at home. It is to basically go out in your garden whenever you can, and to do that early in the day, after breakfast, for example, in the weekends, before you end up with all the other things that you have to do. And today, for example, it is we celebrate the 3rd of Advent and also the Lucia. It's very special in Sweden, so I have lots of things to do in the kitchen, and I have had such a lazy start of this day. Usually I go up like 6 o'clock in the morning to do some work before everyday life starts. But last night I stayed up until after midnight working so I could have a good morning sleep. So I woke up with my youngest kid at I think 8:30, 8:30 in the morning. Just whoa, that's a bit late. And it was nearly 10 or 10:30 until we finished breakfast. So that was really wonderful. And now in just a short while you will see my husband and my oldest kid are going to town to cut my boy's hair. It's not the best time to do that in this COVID times, but hopefully it will be okay. A lot of things, you know, are a bit tricky with kids and this COVID times. We struggle right now with lots of talk because someone in the family is not very happy that he won't be able to see his friends, for example. It's a bit sad, so we have to talk a lot about that. So I prefer then, I need to do something for myself in the garden each and every day, otherwise I will not feel very good. So I try to go out in the mornings, for example, and to make a sowing or prepare something or just have a look in the garden. And I simply love that. I hope you hear me okay. I am using my new Rode Wireless Go microphone and everything seems to work fine. Hi Turid, can you hear me okay, Turid? I have made a few tries indoors and it seems to work perfectly well with the YouTube and also with the mobile camera, but not connecting correctly to Facebook. It's very annoying, but I am trying to find that out. So this is, I will turn the camera. This is what my garden looked like in December in Sweden. It's boring, I think. Can't do much about it. Maybe I could have some better like order, but I don't. And it is a bit secret, a bit of a secret still, but me and the kids are preparing our new work room. It's up here, my office. I'm going to share it with my husband. And we spend nearly all our free time after school and work to do that kind of thing, to renovate that room without my husband knowing anything. So I barely have no time in the garden. So thank you, AGLY. And Torun have a lot of snow. Well, we don't. It's a week ago where I planted the garlic, and this is where I planted it, and I think it looks really good. I'm so satisfied with it, and as you see, I have not yet come to this bed or the one behind. I am getting there. So really no big change from last week. In a few weeks' time, something great is going to happen. I have had such a wonderful week at work because I have seen the new version of my website, sarabackmo.com. Right now, my site, hi Jonas, it's from Sweden. And I have a surprise for you today, Jonas, but you will have to see that later on. Well, that made me happy to see some of my friends. Right now, sarabackmo.com is a blog, simply a blog, but since 3 years ago, I have a membership site in Sweden. It's a great thing to have a membership site, and we are 3,000 or 4,000 members on that site in Sweden. And in just a few weeks' time, we are releasing that for the English version of the website. So sarabackmo.com will soon have membership content with really long articles and guides. And I will then also do videos every month with like a garden tour through my garden. And this will also be available for the Swedish members to see the English content. So it's going to be a connection between gardeners in Sweden and looking at Jonas' comments, yeah. But it will be a connection, I think, between the Swedish members and also the English members. It's going to be so exciting, and I love the new look of the site. So looking forward to it. By then, in January, I'm going to make a good garden tour through my vegetable garden here in this home where we live. And you will then see, maybe it doesn't look that impressive in January. It's not very impressive in December either. But I hopefully can show you a lot of places in the garden where I grow things from winter sowings. And in Sweden, winter sowings can be the perfect thing to start a season. I sometimes believe or think that I prepare 25% of all my space in the vegetable garden or outdoors and in the polytunnels with winter sowings. So when I start my season in March, for example, I have lots of sowings in all my garden made in winter. What is the point with winter sowings in Sweden? Well, in this time of year, it's not very attractive to go out in the garden to work. And it's the same with Norway, Finland, Poland, Germany, and all other countries where we have kind of a cold winter. But like I say, I go out nearly every day in my garden to make some kind of thing for the garden and myself. And just by doing something little each day, I sort of fill up my garden, and that's what keeps it going. So I don't have 2 vacation weeks in May to fill up all my garden. I make something little each and every day. And that is fantastic. And that's how I care for my garden, also with 4 kids and with work and renovating the house, etc. It does not look perfect every day, but it makes me feel perfect in my garden every day, and that's the point. And I also have pretty much food to eat. We eat from my garden in Sweden all year round, each and every day, and that's amazing. So today I am going to do a winter sowings along with you, in this red box. It is it's a tiny place, really, and it's not very attractive. I have had this box for, I think, since 2012, so it's nearly 10 years. It served me pretty good. It's a wooden box, and it's actually some kind of plastic on the inside to prevent it from rotten. And I feed this box every year by simply removing some of the compost to the other side of the box, and I fill up with all kinds of like garden waste. I have lots of plant materials and branches and leaves and compost and bokashi compost, etc. And then I just put the compost back on top, and I empty the other part on top of the other, and I fill that part with lots of garden waste. And I have, my God, this place is filled with really, really good compost. And if I manage to water properly in summertime, because this place is kind of dry in the garden, I have such a good place to grow my vegetables in. And when it comes to the winter sowings, I know that in some part like Canada, etc., it's very common to grow things in like bottles from like old milk bottles. And like in Sweden, you could use PET-flaskor from like Coke and other kind of things. But I think for my garden, I have the best use for winter sowings when I make them like in raised beds or out in the field, in a ordinary garden bed. So mainly I use this for the leafy greens, like lettuce and spinach, arugula, dill, kale, and other things. Yeah, leafy greens. Some of the leaves are not green; they may be red. It works just as fine. And I also make a lot of winter sowings of the early carrots, basically in the greenhouse. It is amazing to have the early carrots in the greenhouse, I can tell you. And I also make sowings of early carrots in one bed, let's say in the main kitchen garden. And what happens is that you simply choose vegetables that will survive as a seed in the ground. Different seeds and different vegetables are they manage this in different ways. So if you put like a bean or a pea from some varieties in the ground in winter, corn and cucumber maybe, they will probably rot and will not survive the winter in the ground if it freeze and thaw in repeated times in winter. But some seeds are just as good as they are in nature. So they thrive and they grow and they flower and they turn to seed in the growing season, and they drop their seeds on top of the ground, right? As they do. And the year after, they germinate and they grow and they become just as any other good plant as ever, because that is how they work, you know. And we can pretend that we run this process and simply pretend that we are the flower and drop its seeds and then start this process. So what happens if I make a sowing now in December, could be in January, could be in February, with seeds that I sow in a cold compost in the kitchen garden, is that the seed will lay here in the compost and simply prepare. First of all, it will rest and it will sort of soak some moisture, and it will then rest. And then when the temperature in the ground is exact what the seed needs to germinate, it will germinate. And this will be earlier than most seeds are earlier than we think that the seeds will germinate. So most time I think is like Swedish gardeners are a bit late with some sowings, basically because we read on the seed packages. This is a cornflower, but you know, on the backside you have the instructions for how to grow this kind of thing. And most often it's said about things that are able to be sown, like in Sweden, you should sow this when the ground is prepared, like in March, etc. And let's take spinach as an example. Spinach is one of the leafy greens I have the best use for in cooking and in like salads and etc. I grow lots and lots of spinach. I will have to read your comments later on. It's a bit confusing using, you know, the English. I can't do two things at the same time. But spinach, one of the favorites. So in Sweden, the instructions on the seed packages said you should sow spinach in April and forward. But I make the sowings of spinach in like December, January, February, March, never in April. Because what happens in April is that the light, the daylight increases, becomes more and more light in daytime. In winter it's dark. And spinach is what we call in Sweden en kortdagsväxt. It is a plant that thrives when it's short days. So if it's too light, the plant will actually prepare to flower and set seeds, because that's how that kind of plant is like programmed, along with arugula, radishes, for example, and the Asian kale varieties, that's pak choi, bok choy. They don't grow their best in the summer season, so you have to grow them really early in Sweden, for example. So spinach, I make the sowings now in winter. And when the ground is about 4 degrees Celsius, I do not know what that is in Fahrenheit, but when the ground is only 4 degrees, it will germinate, because that is how that kind of variety is programmed, right? And of course it will germinate when it's April and it is 14 degrees in the ground too, absolutely. But as long as the daylight is, you know, very bright and lots of light, the plant will grow up and think, all right, it's nearly summer. I best, you know, prepare myself to flower, and then we will get less leaves to eat. So this is what I'm going to do today. I didn't prepare before I went out what kind of things I am going to sow, but I will hopefully show you. I sorted out some seeds. Harriet wonder if I have snow in December. Usually we do, Harriet, but this year we have only had one snowfall and not very much rain, unfortunately. This is kind of an unusual winter, I would say, is because of the climate. It's very warm. Let's see. Now when I have this, I hope the microphone works. So I will actually try to put you over here with my selfie stick, and then I can continue this. Whoops. Do you hear me? It's really nice to have company doing this, and I will tell you now what kind of seeds. This is my little, like a treasure bag with seeds suitable for this kind of sowings. And most often I try to see like a bed like this as my salad bowl. I want to go out here in April. Most years I am able to harvest this in April. And you know, in April it is tradition for Swedish gardeners to start growing things, to start sowing things. So well, it is really amazing to be able to harvest things then. And in Sweden, I think I have had some impact on gardeners in this. And nowadays, many gardeners in Sweden actually go out this time of year and make sowings. It's not working like perfect for all of us. It is depending on what kind of weather we have, where we grow, and also, you know, the time and the energy and the effort we put into this, of course, as with other kind of things in the garden. Oh, how should I choose? I am missing one important vegetable. I noticed that yesterday when I started some seeds, and it's dill. Dill is the perfect vegetable to grow like in wintertime. And I started off by saying something about, you know, sowing in like small containers and bottles, etc. that sometimes see people do in Canada and in other countries. I love to grow radishes. This is not like the Asian radishes. Oh, I forget the name. Radisca. Well, in Sweden we have the small radishes. They are very mild if we water them enough, and they grow very fast. The fastest variety I have is variety called in Swedish 18 days. I don't know the French name, yeah. But it actually grows from sowings, like if I make the sowing in March or in August or whatever, I will have perfect radishes in just 18 days. It is amazing. That's Otto going to the hairdresser along with Philip. I have such a funny story. I can tell you that later on. But the thing with the radishes, I said that to my Swedish members yesterday, is that if you make the sowings of radishes in a cold climate like Sweden, and you do that in wintertime, the radishes grow when the ground is kind of cold, and the seedlings are very like vulnerable, and they will freeze if it comes like minus degrees later on. But if the spinach grows and it freezes, this will not be destroyed. So I have to be very careful when choosing vegetables. This is almost the same size as a Swedish traditional pallet collar, pallkrage. I think it measures like 120 centimeters, but it is like a kvadrat, it's like a square. And the pallet collar is 120 centimeters and 80 centimeters, the width is 80 centimeters. So usually I fit in like 8 rows, I think. And the thing is that there are so many things to tell you about this, and you must give this a try. You must give this a try if you live in a cold climate, because you will have great fun doing it and seeing the result later on. The thing is that, you know, spinach, I have a variety here. This is Giant Noble from Baker Creek Heirloom Seeds, something like this. And I bought it. The description is introduced in 1926. Giant of the spinach clan. Giant. Plants spread to 25 something. Tender leaves great for canning, steaming and salads. And I gave this a try already last winter, and it was, leaves are huge. But mostly we harvest the leaves from winter sowings when they are tiny. Oh, I can't see your comments. You are too far. But usually we harvest the leaves when they are very small, so we don't have to give them that much space in this place, and that's why I can keep quite many rows in a section like this. So spinach, of course, I think I will have 2 rows of spinach, because this is really an important vegetable for me and the family. Oh, so many people. Hey, hey. I may be interrupted in a while. The small kids are still inside. But the spinach, I have already almost too much spinach in the freezer. So I will try not to sow too many beds in this winter. Because I have the spinach I will use for like pastas and gratins and such things. So this will be only to harvest for the fresh use, so to say. But I think I will go for 2 rows. I have this Palko. It's a variety I was recommended by Agneta in the northern parts of Sweden. And Agneta been very inspired by the way I garden. And it's kind of common in some parts of Sweden. This is very interesting, you know, because if you live in northern Sweden, you say that about the things I do. You say, yeah, you can do that because you live in south parts of Sweden, the winter sowings. And we living in south parts of Sweden, we say, I wish I lived in north parts of Sweden because it's easier actually, because you have the cold that will not destroy the seedlings early in the season as they do here in Sweden. And Agneta told me about this Palko variety. Palko is a hybrid, an F1, and this will not flower as easy as we have another variety in Sweden called Viking. It's very popular, but in my opinion that flowers a bit too early, so I'm not that interested in that. I am going to make a sowings of broccoli, and this is not to harvest here, but it's a type of winter sowing where I make the winter sowings here and I simply move the plants later on, and that is so I don't have to make the sowings like indoors, but I will put that here on the edge. Arugula, a mini pak choi. Don't know if I have enough seeds left. I am talking and talking, but I think I'll put it together with the broccoli raw. You can mix that. Spinach, arugula, and this is a mini pak choi. I love it. I have a seeds collection. And someone's watching from Ukraine, you know, I buy seeds from Untitled Seeds, lovely seed company with lots of good varieties. This is a mix that I have. I have my own seeds collection for varieties really good to sow in wintertime in cold climate. And this pak choi mix is one of the most fast growing varieties I have ever tried, and I harvest the tiny leaves. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I have to find a few more things. I will go for, I have, this is 4 årstider, quattro season. This is a red variety. I think I have another one too. And I really love the red leaves, simply because most things that you grow in Sweden wintertime, or that can be harvested in wintertime, are things that are green. Oh, that's empty. I'm not... here's a favorite too. I don't have any of the black kale with me, but I find this. This is, I don't know the name in English, but it is a kind of a kale, and it is called the red Russian. It looks like this, and the leaves are very special in its shape, and the taste is very, very tender. It's not one of the most hardy varieties of kale, unfortunately, but the tiny leaves are, they are so nice, really. I only miss now the dill, because dill is a super, like, I tend to see it more like a leafy green than a herb. Herb? So I really like to grow that, but I think I will put it in a box in my greenhouse or so. Try to put you over here. A lovely view. Swedish boring winter. It is definitely more beautiful with snow. So in this box I dug down a few, looks as if I did 4 buckets of bokashi compost. We'll just have something to make the rows. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Nearly perfect first time. So I simply make 8 rows and I put them in this direction. That's because we have south and we have north, and in that way they will face the sun. The sun is very important in my garden and when I grow things now in this cold time of the year. And it is actually very, very good because my garden is not like shaded with trees or anything. So whenever there's sun, most parts of the garden is facing the sun. And when you grow in a raised bed like this is actually heated more easily than a bed in the ground. I could really recommend you wherever you are, to actually go out in your garden with a thermometer to measure the temperature a sunny day in winter or in early spring. I did that in a few years ago, and I measured in a few places, and the temperature as the difference is, it's huge. I try to find out how to tell you this, but if I want to put you in a good place, sorry. Yeah. You see over by the fence here, I had that year a bed where I grew spinach under a ground cover. So I think that was like 6 or 8 degrees, and then I had a raised bed with a plastic lid, 8 or 9 degrees, and in a bed, just an ordinary bed in the garden, it was like 0 degrees. It was basically frozen. And then I had my polytunnel, the big one, and in the ground with no cover it was like 12 or 14 degrees, and then I had a hot bed. I think it was 21 degrees or 24 degrees, so it was from 0 to 24 degrees in one garden, and that makes a huge difference, of course, in what kind of possibilities you have. Usually now I take my seeds and I put them in a row before I make the sowing, so I can see where I sort of place things. Spinach. Oh, it's perfect. I will show you. And this is so good. I mean, of course it takes a while longer now talking to you, but mainly if I go out, I will just have a few minutes and I go and I do this in 50 minutes. And I go back in, and then we have the salad bowls fixed for like all spring in just a few minutes. over here, hello everyone who's joining us now. So over here we have red Russian. There's also white Russian, but I don't like that as much as this one, because this one has like purple nerves here. Red salad bowl. This is an oak leaf salad. And oak leaf is very cold hardy. You must remember that. Lots and lots of varieties of oak leaf salad or lettuce, and you should give them a try if you grow in a cold climate. The giant, noble, cold hardy and giant leaves, fast growing pak choi mix from my own seed collection, Så året runt, with Nelson Garden, as this from the same seed collection. It's available in basically all garden stores in the Nordic countries. Palko, and we have the arugula, and we have this little tennis ball lettuce. This is so cute. So, and then we have a mix between the Batavia, broccoli, and some mini pak choi. I must tell you, this, you see, I have the red lettuce, and I also have the fast growing pak choi. I can use that in just cut in a salad bowl. And this mini lettuce, the tennis ball, I can actually wait for it to form like a head, because then I have the other leaves to eat in a salad bowl while waiting for this one. So many steps to think about when preparing a sowing like this. Whoops. I wanted you to see it. The tricky thing to sow in this kind of weather is, of course, that even if it's not snowy, it's freaking cold. But I wanted to show you just how I make the sowing, because I use what we call the broadcast sowing. In Sweden, it's very popular to make sowings in rows, and we are very well. We want to make the sowings exactly as it said in the back of the seed packages, which is that you make the sowings with 1 and 1 and 1 and 1 and 1 seed. I simply do like this. I catch the seeds with my fingers and I sprinkle the seeds in the row. I don't care for the spacing, etc. I think I will try to... You see better here, yes. So this is the row, and I simply catch the seeds. And I tell you this because I would have had great use in knowing this when I was a new gardener. And I simply sprinkle the seeds like this. As I said, I don't mind if they are quite close to each other, because they will grow up close and they will form like a thick row of green leaves. And I will harvest them, start harvest when they are only like not even 10 centimeters. And I will come here with my pair of scissors and just and they will then regrow. And I do this with all seeds. And as I said, this lettuce, I'm going to wait for it to form a head. So I will try to grow this not that tight in the row, but I can thin out the row when the seeds start to germinate. And I can then harvest, when the plants are this, I just pull them out of the ground and I can eat that, and then I wait for the lettuce to form its head. Something like this, I think. And I have to sow also behind the camera. And this is just amazing to have this new microphone. I hope it works fine. I am going to have to watch this later on to see. So, the spinach. I I mean, spinach is such a nice thing to have in the garden. Before I started to grow my own vegetables, I was not a very big fan of spinach. I might buy some, the baby leaf spinach in the grocery store, but I mean, it was not that amazing. But the leaves you grow yourself is it is amazing, and the fact that you can grow so much spinach, and also in a time of the year where you are not possible to grow other kind of vegetables. These are the Brassica seeds. Brassica seeds look the same no matter what variety you grow, so it's very tricky if you if you drop seeds in a box or something, you will never tell what kind of brassica it is. And I do the same here. I simply sprinkle the seeds. And this is also, you can grow the pak choi like this pak choi. Green Fortune is a very, very good one. It's a tiny plant. It only gets like 15 centimeters high. And you grow this best when the plants are separated. But this mini pak choi mix, I simply grow also to harvest the tiny leaves. And the thing is that when I grow like in a cold climate, I simply can't wait for it to form this huge head. No. These seeds have been like wet in its package. I think they may not be, hey Lua, be that good, so I sow all of them. Now comes my youngest, Lua. I was hoping I could use this. It already started to germinate in here. Du kan ju inte vara med riktigt, gubben. Är allt okej inne? Är du tröttnat på att vänta? Jag är snart färdig.
När jag är hos Viggo eller Alba, då får jag bara då får jag inte göra något.
Åh. Men ska du gå och göra någonting? Jag sätter i växthuset eller någonting en liten stund tills jag är färdig. Så kommer jag alldeles strax. The older kids were told to take care of Lua for a while, but it was a bit boring for both of them. The red salad bowl. There's a green salad bowl too, oak leaf. And I can tell a tip is that this one is a really good one to sow in like August, September. And you care for the plants and maybe put them in your greenhouse so they can overwinter. Like I have a kind of a box. It's made of foam, some kind of isolating. So it overwinters in that box. Small tiny plants. And when the light arrives in February, and also in February I can have like 20 degrees warm Celsius in my polytunnel, and then they start to grow again. And they grow so fast and are hardy, so they don't mind actually the cold in nighttime. Sprinkle out the seeds. Should we ask Lua something maybe? Lua, vill du berätta någonting om vilken grönsak du tycker om? Nej. He didn't want to tell me what kind of vegetable he prefer. As you can see here, I don't I don't put notes on the ground saying what kind of vegetable I sow, and that is because I don't mind in what kind of order things grow, and usually I see what kind of vegetable it is. So by now my eyes are like trained to see the vegetables, and it's really really good. Du har ju en favorit här, Loa. Ska vi se. I think I'm going to try to get Loa to tell me something about a vegetable that he loves very, very much. Ska vi se om vi inte hittade den. Nej. Låt mig se här. My kids, they eat plenty of vegetables. Den, ska du visa den för kameran? Du får gå lite närmare. Here Loa shows you his favorite. And this is the portulak. And it's a variety we call in Sweden trädgårdsportlak. Det räcker där Loa, nu har de sett. And this is the summer variety, trädgårdsportlak. And I love the variety named gul. There's a green variety too, but the gul, the yellow variety of like the early summer portulak, is amazing. And he loves it. So this was just the brassica, the kale. And I can make winter sowings of the portulak too, but I simply prefer not in this bed because it grows a bit slower than the other ones. This is a broccoli. This is Batavia from a Swedish seeds company. Most times I try not to show this kind of seeds because it does require an explanation, because the seeds are white, you see. And they are not poisoned. I don't know what you call it in English, but in Swedish we say beta. And when the seeds are betade, they are prepared in a way to not be reached by diseases. So it's a kind of poison, and you do want to avoid that. But this is not that kind of color. They simply paint some color because some seeds, because it will be easier for you as a commercial grower to see the seeds when you make the sowings on a black soil, and you need to see if you actually put a seed in a very small container, for example, or cell in a plug tray. So this is not a poisoned seed. This is only colored to make it easier to see on the soil. So you see, I have plenty of seeds in here, and this is a seed package with a date. It is a bit too old. So 2017, and it's next year it's 21, so it's a bit old, and some seeds may lose its possibility to grow. So I simply choose to sow plenty of seeds, and I may end up with, let's say I have like 5 plants of this, and I will be very happy. So I make it almost like a broadcast sowing here too. I simply sprinkle the seeds in like half of the row, maybe. And this is plants I hope that will grow here, and I then can move them to another place. I will not harvest them here. One of my favorites is actually to make an early sowing of, I have another variety. Sorry about me being so nerdig in Swedish, but I really, really like to talk about different varieties. This is my favorite cabbage variety to grow early in the season. And I make the sowing indoors in January, and I plant out the plantings in my polytunnel in March, in a very cool polytunnel, and I then can harvest like heads, the cabbage hearts, in May in the polytunnel. Really, really good. And broccoli is also a variety that can be suitable for that. But if I get any plants of this, I will have to plant them somewhere else in the garden. I will not make sowings of the Jersey Wakefield variety here. Then we had the pak choi. Didn't I? Oh, I find another one. I will just go for this. Will I? It's so difficult to decide sometimes. Maybe I'll just mix it, but I have to show you this one. And so now in the same row, I make the sowings of this dwarf, green fortune. Then I'll show you. I only had like 10 seeds left. Oops. And then we have, I used to put like small sticks on the soil so I see where I ended with some variety. Have a look at this. This is Baker Creek Hillam seeds. And I just love the tiny, tiny vegetables. And this is, I think it is, yeah, no, extra dwarf pak choi. And this one is actually a thumb high. It's so pretty. It's the most prettiest pak choi I have ever seen. And it's very tricky right now to order seeds from other countries to Sweden, especially the States, to Sweden and other parts of the EU. So I will not sow all of it, but I will sprinkle the seeds very thinly here. And I will save each and every one that I don't need. Well, 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 my friends. Oh, a new Baker Creek catalog. I have never seen the catalog, but I guess it's wonderful. So here I have my 8 rows, and I have already forgotten what I saw, but I have the spinach and I have the cabbage, not the cabbage, the kale, and some lettuce, etc., etc. And then I could just go over each and every row, and I make like this. And not a very thick layer, just thin. And one good thing by this kind of sowing is that I never water the soil because the soil is very moist by this time of the year. And now it doesn't matter if it's a snowy day or if it rains or anything, because the seeds will lie here. And my guess, if this mild winter continues, it will be tricky for me. Then I will just go for a tool. Oh, I need my gloves. It's very cold. I'll be back in a while. Vänta lite Loa, jag är alldeles strax färdig. This one? And I will then simply, as you saw me do with the garlic last weekend, I will just press this on the surface, and this is to make the seeds to have contact with the, you know, the soil, so there will not be any like small pockets of air around the seed, because if there will be, let's say, a heavy rain or something, it will almost be like a pool with lots of rain and water in the soil. So it's better if I press the soil like this, so there will not be any air pockets around the seeds that can be filled with water, so the seeds will rotten or anything. Look! Cool, says Lua, cool. And I then put on top these things. Why do I do that? We have 4 cats, and they always look for a good place to scratch and have, you know, their toilet. And it will be very messy, and it doesn't matter really. I mean, things will grow easily, even though, but you know, when I make a sowing like this, I also see, you know, the picture later on for my blog or in a video. I want to have, you know, a nice picture. It doesn't look that good if everything is just spread out. So I put, this is what we call in Sweden, we call it a kompostgaller. It's a netting to use for a compost. So you simply put it together, and then you can put your compost into it. And I buy new compost nettings, 1 set each year. Because I also sort of increase my areas all the time. I need new things. Well, this is what it looked like. Took me an hour now. It should have been like 15 minutes. So now I am finished with that, and I have to go indoors, and I will then plan for new things to do, like maybe tomorrow. Sorry, start to sound like my 4-year-old, mixing yesterday and tomorrow. I think next step for me is to start to prepare this, but I also have, I would like to make a winter sowings of parsnips, but I think it's a bit too much for me to make a row that is 6 meters long. The kids hate parsnips, unfortunately, and me and my husband may not eat all of it ourselves, so I maybe go for like a pallet collar or something. Don't know yet, but I will have to think about that tonight. I'm so happy about this, and I will be so happy for this also in April and in May when I harvest. It's not the most important thing is not to make, you know, the biggest sowing, or I mean, this is a tiny sowing with tiny place, but we are 6 people in my family, and we will have good use for this later on in spring. So hopefully you had a nice time with me now in the garden. Don't forget to check at sarabackmo.com if you want to read more things about how I grow vegetables in a cold climate in Sweden. My name is Sara Bäckmo, and I live in south parts of Sweden in this house along with my family. So see you soon again, and have a really nice day. We are now going to go indoors and make the Lucia buns with saffron. And if you're interested in a recipe, you will find that at sarabackmo.com if you search for like saffron or buns or whatever. So see you soon again, and have a really nice day. Bye bye from Sweden.